Mercury are going 44-0 until someone convinces me otherwise. What is good? Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erica Day. I'm joined by PG1, QB1, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, in and out of the media day press room. You know, you never know where you might find him. Stephen Prinching-Garner. Stephen, how the heck are you?
There's a pretty good chance if it's some basketball related, I'm probably
hey, flag football too, don't. Come on now.
Of course.
Don't sell yourself short.
No, for sure. I'm doing great though. Media day was media day is always fun. Everybody's always in a kind of fun-loving, easygoing, state of mind. Excited and eager about the season and to get to these expectations. And we saw that, but we also saw a very important balance of seriousness and urgency that each player, executive, and coach spoke with. And I feel like that it wasn't necessarily needed, but it was certainly reassuring in terms of understanding their approach to things and kind of to the prioritization list for things that they value most and things that they do value, but maybe not as much as they did in seasons past. But how about you? How you feeling? What's your kind of biggest takeaway from Media Day?
This was my second Media Day ever, and I was joking when I got back to the studio today. Like last year, my very first Media Day was with DT and BG. Were the first people in the room.
Spoiled.
A little nerve-wracking, if I do say so myself. I'll be honest. It was a little scary and intimidating. This year felt like a walk in the park. Like you said, the vibes were just up. We had Shane Diefenbach there, like getting the video for us. The vibes were just up at Media Day. So I felt very, I don't want to say that this team feels youthful because I really don't feel like that's the right word for it. There's a ton of experience, especially on the top half of the roster there. But I really feel like it's a whole new energy. We've talked a lot about how it's a brand new big three and you're moving on from, cornerstones of the franchise. And there's I don't think there's a better position that the Mercury could be in after moving on from two such massive parts of their franchise.
I could not agree more with that. I think that they've done a better job of balancing the roster in terms of talent, offensively and defensively, compared to last season, in terms of size, positionally, and then the other big thing is also age-wise. Age-wise, it feels like they'll be able to sustain doing more, being more aggressive, being more assertive for a full 40 minutes in comparison to last season because of more varying age and obviously athleticism and types of players that they have on the roster. So they feel like they're much, much, much more set up for success in this iteration than last season, but the work now has to be done.
For sure. Definitely heavy on the work has to be done, but I feel like we've hit a couple of topics, like we beat them like a dead horse on the show in the off season.
That's a kudos to us though.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of the stuff we talked about were like key topics for today.
For sure. And I think the first one that I want to get to is the on and off court leader of the team. And, I'm not going to show this clip, but something that Nate did talk about is just how hard it is to come into a franchise with two such important pieces and take ownership of that team. And so I think I can walk away from today's Media Day confidently feeling like this is Kahleah Copper's team. And while, it is the big three and they do, the coaching staff is going to put the team in position to be successful. I feel like in terms of, leadership and who's really going to be taking, who's going to be answering for the team when things aren't going as planned is going to be Kahleah. And I think that's a big change from last year. And so I'm really excited to watch her like grow into that role and in her own way. And I think it's really important that, the team gives her the opportunity to grow as a loner, as a leader this year, but I think she's been set up so well in her career so far that I'm really not nervous about her ability to be a leader, but it was just a refreshing thing to see today. We all saw it in real time. Every person I feel like that we talked to at Media Day talked about, Kahleah's leadership. And I feel like that goes well beyond, whatever clips are about to show right now.
The key word, and you pronounced it wrong. You said confident. Is confident. Say it with me. Confident. That's what it is. And it's because she is not new to this.
True to it.
She, in 2023, obviously when she was with the Chicago Sky, they had a lot of players that were with that franchise that she won a championship with and then contended for one with the season after their championship in 2022 that decided to take their talents elsewhere for reasons that the Mercury will never have to worry about as far as facilities and things along the lines of that. That kind of left her as the lone stand-in piece along with Dana Evans that was a part of that championship team that they won, naturally thrusting her immediately into a leadership role where, Ka, there's no Candace, there's no Emma Meesman, there's no Courtney Vandersloot, there's no Allie Quigley. You don't even got Azurá Stevens around to holler at the leadership part of things with. It's on you and Dana. And with you being the franchise face, obviously, there's an onus, there's a lens, there's a microscope, there's a spotlight that's on you. Every action. Are you aligning with the coach's desires? Are you aligning with your personal characteristics that made you a finals MVP? And one of the best slashing guard/wing in the league? There's a lot of accountability that comes with that. And the fact that she's not new to it bodes extremely well for the Mercury. But I think past, her being spearheading a lot of that is extremely important because she is the franchise piece. But equally as important, she's not alone. Alyssa Thomas has been a player that's been contending for championships for the better part of a decade. Though Kyle will be looked to step into things more, vocally and by action, right there alongside her, 1B, 1A, however you want to do that, is going to be the engine. And the engine is not specific to just things on the court. She's a driver of a culture. And she brings all of those intangibles to the court and to the fold in tandem with Kahleah to where there's no way that the principle is being upheld and the identity that they want to play to will ever kind of fall by the wayside because the players are upholding it. It's one thing for the coach to preach it, but if the top pieces aren't upholding those things, it's never going to resonate with everybody else in the franchise, let alone on the roster. So those two speaking the ways that they did, and obviously the ways in which they've been spoken to having gone about showing it in training camp through these first 3 days, it's everything.
Yeah, I think, I'll let Kahleah talk about her leadership style for herself. Sorry, Shane.
I think playing with great players is a great thing. I think you learn different leadership styles. I think just going back to my 2021 season, winning the championship against the Phoenix Mercury, I think that team was full of leaders, but leaders in their own way. And I think you're able to be your best, authentic, and genuine self when you do it your way. You don't try to do it like anyone else does it because that's what makes you who you are. And then your teammates, they also see you being your authentic self, so they feel inspired to do the same thing. So for me, just having great leaders, seeing them be themselves and also get me to follow, that was inspiring. So I'm just trying to do the same, do it my own way.
Yeah, and I mean, Kahleah said it her best herself. She's learned from the best there is in the business. And,
2 of them.
Right. And one of them retired just a short year ago. And the other one, I'm sorry, I triggered everybody on my timeline the other day.
Jabs. One to my left jaw, the other one to my right jaw. Candace and Diana back-to-back is insane.
And let's not talk about Sue the year before. I just made Steven real mad. But nonetheless, yeah, Kahleah and her talking about that leadership and the way she was. I mean, it's just, like I said, refreshing to see. She knows that she's capable of it, and it's something you just spoke to. That confidence is apparently what we're calling it on this show. And Shane's shaking his head, but I mean, she's carrying it, and we saw the rest of the team carrying it in real time after we spoke with Ka. So, I mean, it's obviously working in real time.
Mm-hmm. I think that the best way to gauge if someone understands, what it is that they're either being asked to do, being tasked to do, or need to do, is how they speak about it. And again, the confidence. I'm gonna keep spearheading this thing. Her continuing to exude those characteristics when like you could literally see her glow up about leadership. In fact, she interrupted the entire media day process because she was coming after Nate to ask Nate about the conversations about leadership that they had. And that was one of the fun kind of ice-breaking moments that made it more free-flowing. But I think that speaks to her not just understanding it, but embracing it. And she's wearing it on a daily basis, and it's setting the tone for everything that their season is going to be. And again, who better than her to do that? And I think the fact that she also understands that she can't just copy and paste Courtney Vandersloot's style into her own because it's not authentic. She can't copy and paste Diana's or Candace's or Allie's or even BG's. It has to be specific to her. And the fact that she's spoken to that in detail, understands that, and is already working to put her own stamp on leadership, it's everything.
And you said it, but like not doing it like anyone else, she is putting her own stamp on it.
Yep.
And I mean, Nate talked about that, and we're going to listen to this clip in just a second. But I mean, listening to Nate talk about Kahleah and their relationship and how it's grown over the last year. Mm-hmm. And, he said it best. There's been good times and there's been bad. And
as
in any relationship. And so I think, she's really grown in her position just here in Phoenix. And, there was other outside circumstances with Unrivaled and everything else that played into effect in the off season. But here in Phoenix, Kahleah Copper has grown as a leader, and I think that shows in everything we saw today. So without further ado, we'll let Nate Tibbetts talk about it.
I'll try not to get emotional here, but like Ka is special. Like she means a lot to me and like what we're trying to do. And her growth over the course of the year, like a year ago, we had just met for the first time, right? And our conversations, our relationship, our trust is at the ultimate level, and there's going to be good times and bad times in any relationship, right? So, but I'm like, we have a new group, but my whole challenge to her this year is lead, and it's not just with what you say, it's what you do. And we've practiced for 3 days, but she's been here for 3 weeks, and every day she has set the tone. And AT's right there with her, right? Like AT, that's who she is. But Kahleah's step, she's seen some of the greatest leaders in W history with Candace and DT. And, she was super respectful to the group last year, but it's kind of hard to lead when you walk in with two cornerstones in DT and BG. And so I think you're really going to see her kind of like spread her wings and take pride. And I mean, you've seen it this whole offseason, the ad free agents, right? Like she's really kind of bought into what we're about. And
Steven, does Nate look a little older to you?
A coaching advances it. No different than being the president does. Dude, coaching advances for you for sure.
I'm gonna have to get my guy some sunscreen. I feel like he's wrinkling just a little bit.
I was gonna say they could definitely.
Y'all know I like girl dad, so I'm just trying to watch out for him. I want to make sure the sun doesn't damage his skin. Phoenix is hard on you. Plus, like you said, coaching is tough. It's like having 12 new kids. And he's already got 2 at home. I mean, dude lives a busy life. I'm just trying to help.
Sure. For sure.
But, I mean, Ka's going to be helping take a little bit off his shoulders in regards to leadership. And you could see he clearly got a little bit emotional talking about it. I mean, the way Ka has grown under him and Diana and just with all the resources she's had has been next to none. And so, like Steven said, it is going to be a 1A, 1B situation. But I don't know that Kahleah would be able to do that if she hadn't had all these other trials and tribulations before that. Mm-hmm. It's tough, to come into a big 3 and have a role. And so I think Kahleah is in a really good spot in her career, and to be able to do exactly what she needs to do. And I to see the Mercury, oh my goodness, succeed. My goodness. I've been up here too long today.
The Suns would love to have Kahleah Copper.
They need her.
That's a whole other topic, a whole other day. But I will say that I know we mentioned Alyssa naturally, but Satou leads in ways unique to her. Sami Whitcomb leads in ways unique to her as well. There's only 2 players on this roster with a championship. and that's Kahleah Copper and Sami Whitcomb. And there's a ton of experience. There's a know-how on a daily basis that comes with that. And I think that having so many voices, like the best teams might have one identifiable leader, but there's going to be multiple other people that are doing so in their own way to where that weight doesn't feel like, all right, I got to come in and I got to be this every single day, because if I slip a little bit, everything else is out of whack. That's not fair to anybody. So I think the fact that the Mercury have all of these identifiable leaders, I think Kalani's going to lead in ways unique to her as well. Like, so to that point that I'm speaking to, the best teams have multiple leaders. The Mercury have that. I think we saw that in the conversations being had today. And I think that they've already started to implement those things with the ways in which they've gone about navigating training camp so far.
Well, and to speak to your point a little bit, I mean, Celeste and Mack both kind of talked about being leaders on the team because they were kind of forced to be. They're two of only three returning players, which, I mean, yes, we're going to talk about continuity in regards to coaching and all that sort of thing here in a little bit, but it is hard to establish a team culture when you only have three returners and two of them are not exactly, marquee players.
Mm-hmm.
It does make things a little more difficult for you. And so, I think there is value in having younger players with less experience who do feel like they hold some ownership and leadership over the team just because simply they've been there a little bit longer than everybody else.
Yeah, great points. Great points, mate.
Well, I'm really excited for Kahleah in particular just because we watched her last season really buy in with Nate Tibbetts. And I think even more so today we saw that, what did she say to you where she's like, oh, Nate got me to shoot threes.
Yeah.
And we're going to be posting that clip here in a little bit on the PHNX_Mercury on Twitter. So be sure to follow that. But, she's bought into the system.
Yeah.
And when you have your, upper echelon, highest leader, A1, B2, whatever you want to look at her as, bought in as she is, I think how can you go wrong as a team?
Yeah, that's the barometer right there. The relationship between the head coach and franchise player, head coach, best player, however you want to put that. Kahleah is that, and obviously Nate Tibbetts is that. Those two having that same vibe that we saw that they had last season, but now having it evolved to where now it's not, I like you, you like me, let's make this work. Now they have, okay, we had a season where we didn't necessarily play to the levels that we desired to on either end of the court, and the ultimate result of the season was not what we wanted either. The experience part, the honeymoon phase is over.
Yeah.
That was all last season.
Yep.
Now it's time to get to the business.
Get to work.
The fact that the franchise has invested in Kahleah the way that it has, and obviously Nate still being here, now, like he talked about being one of the veteran coaches in just his second season because of how much overturn is taking place in the league. That's what you want. You want your best player and your head coach to be seeing eye to eye, because everything that transpires from that is going to be in alignment with the team's ultimate desires, and they have that in spades. I'm not sure if there's another head coach and best player type of tandem that vibes to the level that they do outside of obviously New York and Vegas with the two most recent champions.
I saw a video from Vegas's training camp today.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why they already seem to have the best chemistry in the whole league. Like, what do they put in the water there,
Yeah. It's not always about talent. It's about having those personalities that fit as well, because that makes navigating adversity a lot easier. And the Aces have been the golden standard for doing that part in particular. And, you see the results that they got from it. And this is the Mercury not attempting to do it their way, but doing it in a way that's unique to the Mercury franchise, one of the most winning franchises in the history of women's basketball.
Well, and I think we can talk about, the defense and the positionless basketball that everyone spoke to. This is a topic I feel like we've beat like a dead horse on this show. But, it's going to be such a key to their success this year, specifically their defense and it leading to offense for them. And so, we've got a couple clips of Nick and Alyssa both talking about the defense. We'll start with the Alyssa clip first.
Yeah, when you're trying to play positionless basketball in up-tempo, it starts on the defensive end. You got to go out there and go into a different mindset, kind of like goblin mode where, you just try to do whatever it takes to, stop whoever you need to stop. So for me, defense is part of my identity. I love to play defense. I take a lot of pride in it, and hopefully, you know, my teammates, we can all, you know, go out there and be top 3 in defense this year.
So, goblin mode. I feel like this is going to be a running thing for us on this show. And I'm glad we didn't.
That dude already got the wheel spinning over there.
Yeah.
With thoughts and ideas. Mad scientist mode is activated right now.
Agreed, Girth. I literally said the same thing regarding Alyssa's skincare routine. Like,
yeah. She needs to drop that, and she needs to drop the bun routine too, because between her and Juju, them things don't move.
Have you heard the joke about Juju's bun being a satellite? Okay,
no, and
listen, it's very funny to me, but
God.
also, and now that you've said it, now I can only hope that Alyssa's bun is also a satellite. You know, feed it to wherever it needs to be fed to, and then boom, we got us a championship here in Phoenix. I've been talking about my desires for a parade. Bun, help me out. You know what I'm saying? It seems like easy.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. All I'm gonna say is Jefferson would be cracking.
Right. Popping off.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. But nonetheless, yeah.
So if that's what it takes, then okay, I'm all for the satellite.
Right.
Would love to see Alyssa kick that door down.
Right. I'm trying to see multiple door memes this year.
And not the 2021. I got you.
You know, we already heard Kahleah low-key make fun of us in her own house.
Of course. And Sarah Spain was on that with DT.
I'm like,
a week ago.
Hello? And so, you know, now I need Kahleah in a door side by side here on, like you said, Jefferson Street, right outside PHX Arena. PHNX Arena for those of you who ain't keeping track.
That's what it should be. Yep.
But something interesting is, you know, Alyssa talked about the Mercury having not only the top defense, but the 3 top defensive players on their team. And in Satou Sabally, Kahleah Copper, and herself. And you know, I think a lot of people get it twisted with the 3 of those players that, you know, they're scorers and slashers and this, that, and the other. But I mean, at the end of the day, like all 3 of them are some of the best defenders in the league. And, you know, we heard about it at length, and we're probably going to hear Nick Ewan talk about it in just a second about how all of them can guard many positions. But I mean, when all 3 of them are saying that exact same thing, like it gives me confidence that they're going to be able to go out and execute goblin mode the way they intended to, and, you know, get those closeouts. We talked so much about offensive rebounding and closing out the defensive possessions last year. And I've got this graphic I'm going to have Shane post in just a second, but I think that this team is going to be able to do that.
Yep. You have 3 players that are plus rebounders for their respective positions. Those 3 players are going to be eating up the bulk of the minutes. They're not going to be slacking on the closing, putting a period on your defensive possession and closing that sentence out. They're going to do that in droves. And then naturally also you throw Kalani Brown into that mix. And you have somebody that whether she's grabbing the rebounds herself, which she obviously can, or is taking multiple bodies to try to box her out and keep her off the glass, which then opens up one of Kahleah or Alyssa or Satou to do what they need to do on the glass, and it helps them get in the grab and go mode going into offense. It's perfect the way that they have it set up, and I don't think they're going to be lacking on the rebounding front in particular, which is naturally going to help their defensive rating. Last season, they finished 9th in defensive rating in general, and they were also 9th in half-court defense. Largely, I don't think they were that bad defensively. I think they were like 6 or 5 in the league last year.
5 through 7, I believe, yeah.
5 to 7 at worst. Largely, they were 9 because of the rebounds and having to play defense for 48 or more seconds at a time. And all of it also coming at crucial moments in the game. And now that's putting you way behind any conceding points and momentum. I don't think those things will be an issue for them this season. And because of that, the defense will be better, the offense will be better, and the record will be better.
Well, and I'm going to have Shane show this graphic real quick. I saw this in a tweet. Shout out to my girl on Twitter. If you can't see, Alyssa Thomas is ahead of all of those people. And this is no tier shade, but Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, John Quill Jones, I can't read that far. Aaliyah Boston, Ezzy McMagor. Like, we're talking about, you know, powerhouse rebounders that Alyssa Thomas is out rebounding. And so, you know, I know y'all saw my little shade to the Mercury doubters on Twitter yesterday, but I'm for real. Like, y'all have got to stop doubting this team just because of their size and their age and so on and so forth. I mean, this graphic in itself, I want to say Kalani Brown is Satou Sabally is number 10. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we got multiple players on this list. it's full of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be able to go out and do what they need to do on the defensive end to get to where we need to be on offense.
Yep. And I think the other thing with Alyssa's numbers and his rebounding, she had to contend with Breezy Jones.
Right.
On her team. Also an elite rebounder. So that puts a cap on how many rebounds you can actually pull in.
Right.
When you have someone else that's elite that's sharing the court with you as often as those two were. Not having a Breezy Jones that's going to be not in the way, but competing for rebounds with you in that respect.
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to hit differently. And I think that she's going to be implored to go and grab as many rebounds as she can because that's going to lead to grab and goes. Instead of having to find a guard to outlet it to, and that's taking away 2 seconds off of the shot clock and allowing the defense to get back and get set, they're just grabbing and going. And that's just something that they'll have in space between their top 3 players. And Kobe Bryant spoke to this years ago where he was saying that he felt like the 4 position in particular was going to be a position that drives things on the men's side and also on the women's side. And he was talking about it through the lens of Candace Parker, do it all fours, can shoot, can pass, can dribble, can defend any position, just limitless on the court and the impact that it has. Look at the top players in the league. Each of the last 6-7 years, and specifically to the last 4 or 5, has been AT, Breonna Stewart, Asia Wilson consistently. Last season, who joined the party? Nafisa Collier. Guess what position she plays? The 4. You see the why and why Alyssa Thomas is valued and the impact that she has on both ends of the court, but you double down because it's not that you only have one. You also have Satou Sabally. That's a lot to contend with if they stay healthy and they have that impact on the boards that they desire to. This team can reach their goals of being a top 3 defense. And that naturally lends itself to their overarching goals on the season, which is...
Well, and we're going to get to a clip of Nick Urin in just a second, but we just got to say a quick silent prayer for ACLs all across, the Phoenix Mercury and the WNBA as a whole.
Yeah. Injuries as a whole.
Let's just abolish ACLs. What can we do to abolish them?
That's tough.
Let's abolish ACL injuries.
Yes.
Let's not abolish ACLs. Because then we wouldn't be able to move laterally.
Maybe just find a new invention to get rid of them so we can...
Maybe legs are replaced with wheels.
I think when you're born, you just get your ACL removed so that way you just learn to live
crazy.
without it. You know what I mean?
The reverse DeJuan Blair is crazy. That's insane.
I'm just tired of seeing, once a week it seems, ACL, you're going to be out for a year. That's terrible. I'm tired of it. And the disservice that it's doing to my beloved league. This is not fair.
Yeah, that's tough news on the Georgia A-Moore front.
Yeah.
I hate it for Georgia. I also hate it for Sydney Johnson. Their prized draft picks, all of a sudden now he's without one of them, and they're literally 3 days in the training camp.
Well, and those draft picks were just so exciting to. I mean, I had people telling me I'm suddenly a Mystics fan. We live in Phoenix. The Mystics were gonna be, at the bare minimum, one of the most fun teams to watch in the league. So it's heartbreaking. I got to be honest.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm hoping that there's no more significant injuries that we have to see across the league. We gotta have a healthy season.
I just figured out what goblin mode means.
Go nuts.
Goblin rebounds.
See, like I said, I already got the wheel spinning.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're gonna hit those puns and more after this, but this quick video of Nick Urin talking about the roster construction, I feel like is really important to talk about for us to continue talking about positionless basketball.
I envision a team that can play really quickly. I envision a team that can shift up, shift down in terms of positional size. I anticipate us to have the ability to be really aggressive defensively and like I said, get out and run and space the floor. And we've got players who can pass and players who can play make. We put an emphasis on versatility, pass, dribble, shoot ability, and I think we've been able to accomplish that. So I think you'll see a fluid style of play, one that gets up and down the floor, and one that can really share the ball a lot.
Heavy on the pass, dribble, shoot.
Heavy on the pass, dribble, shoot. Heavy on the versatility. Heavy on the positionless. And I think that naturally you hear versatility, positionless, think about the offensive side, but I keep bringing things back to the defensive side first because that's the order in which they're planning on their process going. Defense is everything for them. That's their identity stamping side of the ball that they're looking to do with defensively this season. Talk about that part. Last season, I believe there were only maybe 2 teams in the league that switched more than the Mercury. And this is just me speaking off the top of my head. The Mercury might have been like number 2. They could have been number 1 as well. And that was, I think, Minnesota and New York. And the 2 teams that were in the finals last season were Minnesota and New York. And that's not to suggest that switching is going to automatically put you in the finals, but it's a piece that's going to be needed if you have the personnel to uphold it. And you look at the roster that the Lynx have, you look at the roster that the Liberty have, now you look at what the Mercury have. And there are some common denominators within that, starting with that 4 position and then looking at what else in addition to that 4 position that they have. The Mercury have the makings for a team that can play multiple styles of defense. Last season, Nate Tibbetts never shy about running zone. They ran the most zone last season. That's something that could very much be impactful and effective with this group across multiple lineups, whether it's for a 3 or 4 minute stretch or whether it's after timeouts like they like to use it last season. They also like to cross match. Alyssa Thomas, Satou Sabally, Kahleah Copper, almost all of them can guard 1 through 5. That being able to flip matchups and things like that doesn't have to just be Satou on A'ja Wilson. It could be AT. Not going to be Kahleah Copper directly, but if they're switching, Kahleah Copper can comfortably stay in front of A'ja because she knows she's going to have help from the other 2 around her in some capacity. And having that variability in styles of defense to keep an opponent on their toes, make them work through more of their offense than just running plays, but also dictate to them by making them work later in the shot clock and things like that. Those things add up over the course of 40 minutes to where now teams are like, okay, I don't know what they're necessarily going to be doing, and they have the personnel to match that. Whether they want to upsize like Nick just got done speaking to and put Kalani on the court with the big 3 and insert 4th, 5th player here, or if they want to downsize and go all smalls. They can do that. They can play multiple defenses, and I think that's something that's going to make them really good this season. I don't think it's out the realm that they can be top 3 at all.
Well, and on the flip side of that, on the offensive side, we heard them all talk about screening and their ability to use that this year and how important that's going to be in order to put defenses in a bind. And I think, we saw it in snippets last year, but I think this year it's going to be such a heavy part of their game. It's going to be over and over and over again that the defense is going to have to make a choice. And I mean, eventually you get tired if you have to play the whole shot clock on the offensive end, and now you're coming over here and you're having to make really tough decisions on the defensive end. By the end of the 40 minutes, you're zonked.
Yeah. It eats away at an opponent's legs, but it also fatigues you mentally. Right. They force you to think so much, because if you don't and you're a half beat behind or you're not organized, there's going to be a price to pay. And that price to pay can come in multiple ways with the way that this roster is set up. They're going to be fun to watch on the offensive end. I'm just hoping that they can find a certain tempo that they're playing with in the half court, because I feel like teams are going to try to bet on them shooting more threes. And obviously Nate wants them to shoot threes, but it's not just we're shooting a 3 because we weren't able to find anything else in the offense. He wants the 3-point opportunities to come from a defense having to overreact to one action here or another action there. And because of that, now somebody's wide open, and that's one of the players that they want to be shooting those threes, coming in like a certain flow. And if they can get to that point while putting defenses in that bind that you just got done speaking to with a certain tempo, a certain pace, that's where I think the top end of their offense is going to come out. And to that point, where do you think they can finish in offense this season? Because last season, obviously, it was middling. When it was good, it was like number 2
no
in
one
the
could
league
stop
at
them
multiple points.
at certain times. And yeah, I think like you said, a top 3 finish is not out of the realm of possibilities. I think it's really important that this team stays true to their identity. And so I want to see them score in transition. I want to see them shoot threes, but I really need that identity piece to remain the forefront of their entire focus. They have that 160 some odd counter down over on the TVs at training camp, and it counts down to roughly the WNBA finals. And, that's for a reason. And I want them to remember that identity all leads back to that number and that countdown and gets them to their ultimate goal.
For sure. And to that point that you're speaking to, with them just kind of just making things happen. Last season, there was, I think, 4 teams. Let me double check my notes. I think there were 4 teams that had 2 or more players that were top 26 in free throw attempts last season. The Mercury obviously weren't a team that had that, but with the additions that they've made, they now have 4 players that were in that group. Only team that has more players than them in terms of that group of players is Atlanta, because they have the pieces that they have. Ryan, Big Al, excuse me. Ryan, Big Al, obviously Breezy Jones, now BG on top of all of that, and Jordan Canada as well. They can put pressure on you in certain ways. The Mercury can replicate that. If they're getting to the free throw line with Satou, Kahleah, Kalani, and obviously AT all being in that top 26 from last season in free throw attempts, if they're all getting close to those numbers again, that means their defense is being set. They're controlling the tempo of the game. Opponents are going to be in foul trouble. They're going to spend a lot of time in the bonus. So now when you have to reach in on Kahleah because she's getting ready to blow by you,
right,
instead of it being sideline out of bounds or baseline out of bounds, it's free throws. And their defense stays set. So now they get back on defense, and now that's when they can start playing with their cross-matching, the zone, the switching. It becomes like overwhelming. If they're at the free throw line, they're scoring, and then their defense is set the whole game. So they can put pressure on teams in certain ways. And when all of those players we just got done speaking to are all downhill first, second, and third, again, it just becomes overwhelming.
Well, and so we're going to get into a little bit more of a fun segment, I feel like, at the end, where we take a look at some clips of the youngsters, the not so rookies on our beloved Phoenix Mercury. But I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, last year at Media Day, I remember very vividly all of them, the players, talking about championship aspirations. And today, you know, none of them necessarily said their goal wasn't a championship, but I really want to say the only person I heard straight up talking about their goal of a ring is Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not that I'm saying that that's not their goal. I actually think more so the opposite, in that it's very much their goal and that they're just not publicly smearing it the way they were last year. And I think it's setting the team up to be an underdog, for a lack of a better term, which is interesting coming from such a storied franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But they are really setting themselves up to be the team to beat, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to go out their way to say.
Did you pick up on that same
were.
vibe, though? Because I didn't really hear. Again, I think the only person I heard say it is AT.
This season for me, it felt a whole lot more like what's understood don't have to be said more than anything.
Which is why
else.
that countdown's on the clock.
Exactly. And even to your point, though, Alyssa only brought it up because I asked
Someone
her directly.
asked, right? Yeah.
I asked her directly. I was like, "You've been knocking on the door for a while.
Yeah.
Like, what made you want to come to Phoenix?" And she spoke to reasons why, which we've spoken to on this episode already. But it's very much what's understood and got to be, explained. And they're very much in the business of aligning with that more than talking about it this season. Not even compared to last season, but more so than last season.
Right. I think it just exemplified that their goal is winning to me.
Yep.
More than anything else. But nonetheless, what number is our rookie and what number? We didn't get a pick. And they did speak to that actually today.
Didn't need it the way they picked up pieces.
And I think at the end it's going to be, we're going to talk about the players that were cut from the roster. And, you guys will see that it really wasn't necessary for them to bring any draft picks in the cut. Mm-hmm. Nick, you were in straight up said it. They got players out of their top 30, which I think, when you don't have a draft pick and you're still getting players out of your top 30, multiple players at that, you're getting what you want. Especially with no draft picks. And, you've got cornerstone pieces here in Phoenix. Something we haven't talked about is the fact that Kalani Brown is actually the only player under contract. And, it was mentioned today at Media Day. And I think that that's really an interesting, thing to think about with this team. Mm-hmm. And it adds to the fact that we felt like she's, kind of the unspoken cornerstone of the team. And, she's going to be such an important piece to what they're going to be needing to do this season. Mm-hmm. And it's going to bleed into next season, hopefully, if everything works out well.
Yeah, she's going to be an X factor. I don't think she can be the X factor, but she's going to be a significant X factor for them. Just because she gives a change of pace. They can slow the game down with her. They can match up with other teams if they want to. They can dictate to opponents if they want to. If teams are smaller just because of the way their roster is set up, they don't have to necessarily play to that. They can just throw Kalani out there. Kalani can end up with 15 and 10 on any given night and just really have a stamping type of impact over the course of a game. So there's a lot of value in having her, and I think it's going to continue to show itself to be true as the season goes on. I think that Kalani also has, there's an IQ thing with Kalani that I think is going to kind of shine a little bit more this season than it maybe did in her tenure with the Wings. I think naturally her having spent time in an impactful and effective manner with Satou, those two on the court last season, it wasn't that long because Satou was only their post All-Star, but they were like +2 in net rating, which is really good. The offense was uplifting that mostly, but I think there's going to be things to build around in the combinations of Kalani and AT, Kalani and Satou especially, and Kalani and Kahleah, because Kahleah is the best driver of the basketball in the league outside of Alyssa, who's also on the team. If you always have to have someone jumping over to guard one of those two because they got blown by on the perimeter, now Kalani's just wide open. You put it up high, she doesn't have to bring it down. Those are gimmies. Super low energy gimmies. All you got to do is just dump it to her and it's a layup. So, yeah, be ready for the Kalani impact to be there because she's going to be potentially a 6th player of the year.
I feel like we're going to get at least one Kalani Brown special out of the year. Like 44 games, like we're going to spend one whole episode just talking about how, we told you how important Kalani would be.
She's going to have that over the season, but I think even more so come playoff time when defense and rebounding shine through. Those are the things that they're looking to align with most. And she is very much embodies that identity in and of herself. That's going to be key for the Mercury going into the playoffs.
Well, and another thing I really think is key, and we've kind of talked about it, but Celeste and Mack.
Yep.
Only 2 players outside of Kahleah that have returned to the Mercury for this season. And, you know, I'll let Celeste talk about it herself in just a second, but I think their confidence today really, tenfold from last year. And, you know, they both had a chance to not only play overseas, but win overseas.
Yep.
And I think it showed today, and their preparation for training camp has already been proven. Not that their spot is booked because obviously anything can happen over the next week and a half, but these are going, in my opinion, at this point, I can confidently say that these are going to be important pieces to what Nate is trying to execute with this team. And so, without further ado, here's Celeste talking a little bit about her time overseas this year.
Obviously, the goal is to win. And I feel like my job is to do whatever I can to help us win in whatever position and role that is asked of me. And I think overseas, I think for me it was just more of trying to get comfortable and be confident. And, I'm playing against grown women overseas, and I've had to play against Sami and other girls in the W overseas. So just being really confident coming in and just continuing to work hard and get better at the things that I struggled with a bit.
And then obviously we got friend of the show, Mack Truck, Hong Kong. Obviously, I was super stoked. I was like, are they going to give us Mack for Media Day? But then they did. And just take a look at how good Mack Truck's vibes are.
Listen, let me tell you, I'm more in shape okay? So I came back ready to dominate. And so just doing what I had to do, understanding, now I'm not a rookie, really. I understand what people need, what people expect, and what I can give.
Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong indeed. And I think that if I'm talking about takeaways from training camp, the bits that I've been able to see, because we're obviously not there the entire practice, but I'm seeing Mack spend a lot of time with the deemed starting group. I don't want to read too much into that because I feel like it's just lineup iterations.
Fluid. Yeah.
But it would make sense in terms of them trying to lean into versatility. The things that we saw Mack be successful with last season, both when BG was out of the lineup, but also when BG was back.
Yeah.
And being able to be a change of pace big when BG was off the court. I think Mack is in a great confident space. I got a chance to talk to her the day before at practice, and she just kind of, you could tell the way that she was speaking that she was locked in. Super locked in. And I feel like you could also take that away from the last bit that we just got done watching together.
She was trying to kiki it up with us today, but she was also very much serious. I'm here and I'm earning my spot and nobody's going to take it away from me. And I think when you're approaching it with that mindset, no one's going to tell her no. And, she's going to get hers this year on the team. I think Celeste is going to play some valuable minutes, but I think Mack is really going to end up being a very, very important piece. To speak to your point, I think pace is going to be night and day from last year. And, you know, you speak to the cornerstones that the Mercury has moved on from, but the pieces that they've moved to play with extreme speed, agility, you know, they just play with a different level of I'm going to go get it. And so I think, you know, it's going to be really telling early on what style of basketball they want to play with how much Mack is playing. And because I think her versatility speaks for itself. She sprints the floor. I'm not even going to say she runs the floor. She sprints the floor and she does her job. I think you can't always ask role players to go out there and do a specific thing, but Mack is always willing to do exactly what the team needs. And I think when you're as confident as she is right now, you can do that and some. And so she's in a really good spot.
And she gives a lot of those multiple efforts on the periphery that might not always show up on the box score per se, but are extremely conducive to the ways in which they want to operate on the court. And I think that she wasn't in a direct quote that we just got done listening to, but from someone else. She mentioned she's been getting very comfortable with using her left hand out of reaction to how our defense might be guarding her or whatever type of situation she might be in. But the other big thing is she said making quick decisions. And that's going to be something that everyone's going to need to do for this offense to reach that tempo that I'm speaking to in the half court. It's going to be a lot of bigs having the ball in their hands because they're not playing the traditional point guard style of play. Those decision makers have to make quick decisions, and the players off the ball also have to do so. And I think that Mack, if she's speaking to what she is in terms of being in that space, is perfectly aligned with the team.
Yeah. And like the continuity piece of it all is also really big, I think. But above all else, like I think their confidence really is going to bleed over into everyone that's new on the team. And when you're coming into a team, you know, a lot of these players are coming from places where there was no facility. You're not necessarily eating team meals after you're done practicing. You're not taking collagen shots.
Kahleah already spoke to all
that. You might have to go somewhere else to have the post game meal. Or they might have
someone catered instead of having it on site, which is not the same.
It's not. It really is not. Chef Carlo, shout out to that guy for taking care of the squad. I'm sure he just really doesn't ever get enough credit for all the things he does because seriously, you got to keep the team locked and loaded. And he does just that. And so, you know, again, not all of these players are coming from places where they prioritize that as much as the Mercury does. And so, you know, Mack, Celeste, Kahleah are kind of showing them the ropes of, you know, this is what it can be like and let's win while we do it. And, you know, the team was not losing when Mack was playing for them last season. So, you know, we've seen what she's capable of. And then on top of it, you know, to compound that with whatever she did over in Spain in the offseason, I cannot be more excited for where she's headed.
She's in a great space, and I feel like that's exactly where, if the Mercury are bringing a third big into the group with obviously Kalani, and then in the front court, speaking generally with Satou and Alyssa, Mack checks off the boxes that they would desire for a fifth player too.
Yeah. Well, before I get to my last question for you, Stephen, I do want to remind you guys to leave a like on this video. Plus, we're 160 subscribers away from 40K. And I mean, just help me help you. You know, I want to get more content out to you guys. So help us get to 40K. We're so close, but so far away. So 160 more people just need to press that little button right below me where it says subscribe and subscribe to the PHNX Sports on YouTube.
And while you at it, also
become a diehard. My gosh. Yeah. I saw some people talking about how I'm a Toronto Tempo fan. Yeah, that's diehard only content. And so in order to see that content, you're going to have to become a PHNX diehard. Go down. It's the first link in our bio. Shane, I'm actually going to look at you real quick. Is the deal still running?
We have a few.
Technically, yes.
Yes.
You're not supposed to tell people yes.
Okay. So become a diehard at the link down below.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
You got like 2 hours left.
It's a really good deal for
clock is ticking.
Yeah. The
tick,
clock
tick, tick.
really do be ticking. So, you know, the Mercury have 130 or 160 some odd countdown. We got
You drink coffee?
Yeah, a lot of it.
You buy coffee?
Yeah.
How much money do you spend on a coffee per visit?
Oh, well, I buy like coffee beans. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Starbucks like $6. This diehard deal per month is less than that.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, and you get a free t-shirt, membership card, cool little box in the mail that you can post, and then all of us are going to repost you and then yap about it for days on end in the shop. So be sure to just become a diehard. It's pretty cool. You can get this shirt if you want. It's just PHNX shirt. Kind of, you could also get a BTFD shirt, whatever you really choose. We got a ton of cool Mercury gear. Like, it's all pretty cool stuff. So click, like I said,
Activate
first
the
link.
Valley shirt.
All right. Enough, Shane. I've heard enough from the Goblin.
We'll have exclusive Mercury content coming this season as well that you'll only be able to, participate in or consume if you're a diehard. So
you ain't even gonna know the results of this WNBA fantasy league if you don't get in the Discord and hop in there and listen to me suffer because I forgot to set my lineup for the 7th week in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a long way of saying cheaper than a cup of coffee, but it is cheaper than a cup of coffee. Get in here.
I was trying to do a nice metaphor, Henslow, and it didn't work. I apologize. Sometimes
in life you try your best and sometimes it doesn't go well. It's okay. But Steven, I've been seeing, I think you probably saw, I've seen a lot of discourse on Twitter this week because, the Mercury doesn't have depth. Oh, the Mercury doesn't have a point guard. Oh, the Mercury doesn't have all the pieces it needs. Oh, the Mercury doesn't have size. Oh, the Mercury doesn't have. And I can't think of a whole lot of things that the Mercury doesn't have right now. But I do think that this team has championship aspirations. I do think that this is built to be a contending team. Does anything we saw today change your mind about this team being a championship contender? Does it push the needle further for you? Where do you think this team is at with their contending liability, and what just how do you see this all playing out today? Obviously, we're not fortune tellers, but if the cookie crumbles the way you think it will, how does it go?
Well, last time we talked about it, it was a roster that wasn't fully put together. There was no training camp invites. There were no, obviously, rookie scale contracts that they doled out either. It was just the big three and Kalani and Sev and Sami. That was it. So what, 5, 6 players that were on the roster at that time? There was nothing else, and we had questions about how they were going to fill out the rest of the roster. I will say it still remains to be seen the production that comes from the players that filled out the rest of the roster, and they still have to make decisions. They're at 18. They have to get to 12 or 11 by the time the start of the regular season comes. So news to come on that as far as training camp cuts and things like that. But I feel like with certain pieces, they can fill the voids that they needed in ways that's going to be conducive for the team to get to that ultimate goal. It's going to take work still, and it's going to take some players hitting their ceiling in terms of their individual production within this team context. But I think they have the pieces to do that. 2 of the pieces that I'm speaking to, number 1, Tamara Poindexter. Talked a whole lot about her the episode before last and how the 3-and-D, wing, the size, the versatility defensively, the way she can knock down threes in a different context that she can shoot them in. And again, that positional versatility, she's, I think, 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", and she's able to play next to Alyssa and Satou. She can play without one of those two on the court and take on those same matchups that they do with a certain type of activity and youthfulness that's going to be a positive hit for the team. I think she quickly carves out a role. I don't think she's going to necessarily start per se, but I can see her being 7th or at worst a 8th woman type of role for this team and playing a 15 to 20 minute type of role. And then the other one is going to be from the guard position, Shyla Hill.
I wish we could have talked to her today.
Yeah, she's been having, some injury things that she's been working with and whatnot, but the things that I have seen, she spent a little bit of time with Deem's starting lineup. Again, I'm not saying it was the starting group, but spending time with the big three and her on the court, very interesting for me because she's a very good dribble, pass, shoot type of player that Nick obviously values most. Doing that from the guard position, not having to have the ball in her hands, but when she does get it, can do more than just shoot it. I think that's going to be a positive hit for them in a way that can kind of spark things. So if I'm bringing up 2 pieces, those are 2 that I'm speaking about now. We'll be doing check-ins with that throughout the preseason, though, for sure.
Yeah, I got real frustrated earlier this week because I think that depth is something that the team kind of lacked last year, truthfully. And this year, I just don't see that
last season
the same way at all.
was a whole lot more drastic than this season in terms of the depth
It was
piece.
so top-heavy.
And then you take Rebecca Allen out of the conversation at the most crucial point of the season, and now that's crippled even more. So, yes.
I just think that this team has a little bit, I hate to say this, but room for error in terms of their, who's playing with who and, timetables. I just think that this team has a little more wiggle room as to, minutes that can be given and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I guess that maybe opposite of proves my point, but I think it kind of doesn't. I think that I can see this team playing 8-9 deep when it comes to playoff time. And I think that those are the teams that you see with true success. Because, it's a short season. It's a lot jammed into a short time. So, you got to keep your legs fresh for September, October time. So you've got to be able to play deeper in your bench come August, early September. And I think that this team will be able to do that.
Yep. And you saw that in the finals, quite literally, with Minnesota and New York. New York being able to go 9-10 deep. And obviously Minnesota being able to go 8-9
Sherrod playing in the
deep.
semifinals. How I feel about her, and still, it just made me want to kill myself. I'm like, this
tough.
is horrible.
That's tough. And I think pieces like with the Liberty, having Rebecca Gardner naturally just tucked away. I got all of these loud other things going on. Leonie Fibich, Niara, all these other pieces. Oh, yeah, we also got Rebecca Gardner, who last time we saw her should have been all defensive caliber type of talent on that end of the court. That can also shoot, dribble, and pass herself to add to everything that they're doing with Sabrina.
Yikes.
And then obviously Minnesota just quadrupling down, bringing in one of the Samuelson sisters.
And now they're going to build their secondary around Diamond Miller.
Diamond Miller, and she's healthy. Yeah.
The Diamond Miller killer is going to go crazy this year.
If she hits the way that they hope that she does, she's one of the best drivers in the league. If she is that, if she's going out getting paint touches and she's got all of these 3-point shooters surrounding her, that's just another depth piece for a team that was just in the finals last season. So speaking to that point, and I say this respectfully, just because you don't know the names aren't as identifiable doesn't mean that they don't have pieces. Like, if you want to go to those extents, at least do the work, do the research, and go look at these players, not just the highlights, but go and look at the numbers, see what they did for their respective teams, and then think about how that fits to the puzzle that the Mercury are putting together with their team this season. There lies your answer. But if you don't want to do the work and you want to just throw hot takes, then
I'll just argue with you on Twitter.
Just
at me, okay? Steven doesn't want to argue with you. I'll argue. I'm in the mood all the time. So, but I think we've kind of hit on most of the things, everything we've been gathered here to hit on today.
Full press conferences will be posted on our YouTube channel tonight.
Actually, couple of announcements. First and foremost, the full press conference is going to be posted on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel later tonight. It's already scheduled. Shane's been hard at work during this show. That's why he nearly missed my Kahleah clip at the very beginning. That's okay, though. Second announcement, every Thursday, 11 a.m. Put that in your calendar.
Through May.
Right now. Tomorrow is an exception because we just went live today. Y'all don't need to hear me repeat all of this for the second time. But starting a week from tomorrow at 11 a.m., you can bookmark us in every single Thursday at 11 a.m. There are going to be some other shows sliding here and there as well, and I'll keep you updated on the PHNX_Mercury on Twitter. But go ahead and just put that in your...
Thursdays at 11.
Right. Google Calendar that now. I'm not waiting, Calendly, however you track it. Put it in there, 11 o'clock. There's going to be so much to talk about next week. We're going to have already seen a preseason game by that point. I'm feeling amped to watch this team play basketball. To stop watching EuroLeague, listen, as much as I find so much joy in it, I can't. the start times,
I hear you on that
listening to the announcers and I don't know what they're saying. Like, it's just tough. So I'm so excited to be back, domesticated, watching the WNBA
That's
basketball.
Wild. You need some unrivaled in your life. That's what everybody was talking about, not having to travel.
And you know what? And I watched plenty of that. And still, it almost made my basketball itch grow more. You know what I mean? So now I'm like, we got to move the WNBA season around, which, by the way, there was a lot of discourse about that, too. They do need a bigger break. So, Kathy, if you're watching, because I know you like to listen to the
Kathy got work to do.
Mouthy pieces, I like to say.
Laundry list.
How about you just go ahead and move the season? Like a little forward.
I wouldn't be mad if she addressed the CBA before that, though. She got a
maybe we can include it in the CBA, though, because I feel like it is for player protection. And, it's for the betterment of the league as a whole. I really believe this. I'm not necessarily saying that they have to move it to the NBA season because I don't think that that's the answer either. But I think that the current schedule that they have where they roll from the draft and
Yeah.
You get torn
Those players
ACLs.
need a little bit of break.
Right.
Those players need a little bit of a break. We heard Caitlin Clark talk about it at All-Star last year. She's like, guys, I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Like, media, y'all are cool, but let's make this as quick as possible because I haven't had a break since, like, going into her sophomore year is what she was talking about. And needless to say, she was looking forward to, obviously she didn't want to lose in the playoffs, but to have an actual break, she is taking full advantage of those.
I'm fully of the
pockets.
belief that the lone reason she did not say yes to Unrivaled is because of the break that she needed. It was never money driven at all. It was always, I need time. And my legs need time. My arms need time. Like, and you know, when you did as much facilitating as she has done over the last 2 seasons, albeit college and the WNBA, like, girl, take all the time you need. So I really think, you know, the break should just be a little bit bigger, you know? I'm not talking anything crazy, but, and I know it makes it tough having the playoffs go into November and the holidays and da-da-da-da-da, but if we're going to be growing the league, you know, you should be doing it in a producive way and, you know, having all these players come with no breaks and only 12 players, maybe you should expand the roster size too while you're at it, Miss Kathy.
Facts.
I'm looking at 15 for real. It's I don't think it's that hard, but nonetheless, yeah, I just think that there could be some changes. So
yeah, all of these things I think will be included in conversations and negotiating for the CBA, but that's a whole nother thing.
I would like to be a fly on the wall, not necessarily for the meeting with Kathy, but for the Players Association part of it.
Yep.
I want to hear what Fee and Kelsey Plum and all. I want to hear it all, please. Whew. But nonetheless, please tap in with us over on PHNX_Mercury on Twitter. We keep you updated all throughout the week with what's going on in Mercury Land. This week, we're going to be posting even more clips from the press conference.
We got y'all squared away for these next like 3 days. We got all type of content that's going to be coming through. So
I already posted a really cool Alyssa Thomas graphic today. If you saw all those pictures I posted from Media Day, those were taken with my phone. So shout out to Steve Jobs for inventing such incredible camera phones. Girth Jr. said it best. Play the players more. Yeah. So, you know, follow us on Twitter, Erica Lee Day and Stephen PG3 and Kathy, while you're at it, play the players some more. Is there anything else I've missed today, Stephen?
Shout out to the MVO shirts that Nate and the Mercury staff have been wearing. Those shirts are fire. Mercury vibes only.
I'm gonna need one, and not to mention the fact that they got a certain BB hat company working with them, and I don't have one of those in my possession, you know, and so I am a little bitter about it. I'm not gonna lie. It's purple, and I would really like that to be in my possession. So, nonetheless, but I'll get it for you guys. See you guys next week on Thursday at 11.
We all silly like the mayor.